It's a hot one today, about 94 degrees, but a lot more pleasant than it has been. We're coming off a stretch of hot, windy days we've had here in southeast Colorado, about 4 days of it.
A heat wave, multiple days, over 100 degrees. We even had a nearby grass fire.
Southeast Colorado is in a drought this year. Let's talk about ways to keep your garden healthy and growing through hot weather like this.
It's the dog days of summer, Scout. Hot, dry, and windy. Sometimes it feels like a blast furnace. I have to irrigate my garden here on the ranch. Our average annual rainfall is 12 inches. My irrigation water comes from a shallow well next to an arroyo. I have a series of catch ponds to slow down floods and soak that water into the ground. I call it a groundwater battery. So if you live and garden in the drylands, think about your water source. That's important. Here's the groundwater monitoring spring. Looks like we got a pretty good underground flow. I call this little pond the spring pond. Nice and narrow. And up here, over the spillway, is the wetlands, all tied in together. This old air motor windmill pumps water uphill to a storage tank, and that's my irrigation. So that's a large-scale water catchment system. But now let's get back to the garden and check out the earthworks on a smaller scale.
Rainwater is a scarce and valuable commodity out here in the dryland prairie. I catch and soak as much as I can with earthworks.
When rainwater sheets out these steep hills, I catch it with these berms. They're made out of waste hay and manure. I call them spongy berms. These berms catch and soak water into the ground and the berms. They also direct water into my garden. This third berm funnels water straight into the garden. This is a big rain from a couple years back, and here's the berms in action, filling and overflowing. Our last big rain was on June 6th. That's almost a month ago, and these berms are still wet. This waste hay and manure is spongy material. It turns into great soil, full of life, and it smells good too. I let the grass and weeds, like this bindweed, grow through the berms. It locks it all together. Lots of trees are planted on the wet side of the berm. When the weeds get big and rank, out of control, they get chopped and dropped. More mulch, more feed for all my trees. Being that these berms are made out of organic material, I also plant on top the berms. Grows things very well. Here's a bush cherry and a baby plum by the old mill. Let's take one last look at that beautiful berm material, waste hay and manure. Look at that soil. So good. Another way to beat the heat is to mulch your trees and mulch them heavy. I have a ring around this tree built to mulch, and this is all the grass that grows up, and I chop it and drop it. Makes a nice nest and keeps that soil moist. These rings protect my trees from deer. Looks like this little plum needs the same treatment. We'll pull off the ring and chop and drop those weeds. I like to pull these weeds by hand. I get some of them by the root. You'd never want to run a string trimmer around a young tree like this. And that's green manure. It'll mulch this tree and feed it.
There's always room for improvement. I'd like to catch a lot more water off these hills with some swales and half moons.
Massive amounts of water sheet off these hills in a big rain. I'd like to catch some of it and soak it into the ground. Swales are basically ditches cut on contour to catch water, and half moons are just depressions. Now let's look at the difference of vegetation on one side of the fence and the other, and that's due to mulch. Hard to see on camera, but this island of mulch is about 2 feet deep, and these honey locusts love it. And that's another way I beat the heat and keep water in the soil. Mulch and deep mulch. The mulch isn't as deep in these large areas around the garden, but it does help. I also chop and drop the weeds here. More mulch is added every year. This is what it looks like. Waste hay, manure, and here's some of the kochia weed I chopped and dropped. This light layer of mulch helps, but things are starting to get dry. Here's what the soil underneath looks like. For comparison, here's a spot where the mulch is deeper and the soil still has moisture. Now let's go inside the garden fence and see how our main crops beat the heat with mulch, shade, and water. I've been mulching these garden paths for 8 years with the same material, waste hay and manure from the ranch. The soil is getting quite rich, and I plant in it now. These are potatoes, and they love growing in this deep mulch, but they don't love the heat. Sometimes it's best just to call it. Pull them out. they're not going to grow anymore in this heat. Small taters, but I'll take what I get. This isn't really potato country. And here's a look at the soil you can get with 8 years of mulch. Mulch will break down over time, and it does change the native clay soil. It makes it more loamy. If this material didn't break down, it would be about 3 feet deep on these pathways. Always love digging taters, or tatoes, as my wife calls them. It's like a treasure hunt. And here's a tato trick, not related to beating the heat, but useful nonetheless. After pulling potatoes from one plant, take a good one and put it back in the ground. Now you're planted for next year. Harvest and plant on the same day. And the greens go to the chickens. Don't worry, I know they're toxic, but the chickens don't eat them. Instinctively, they know. They'll pick out weeds and bugs and scratch the plants into dust. And that brings us to beat the heat tip number 5, shade. This shade cloth keeps the chickens nice and comfortable, but it can also help plants. I used to have 2 shade structures in my garden. It helped my plants a lot. Unfortunately, they got crushed by snow. The shade trellises lasted about 5 years, but now I have better shade. Trees. Trees beat shade cloth because they can actually cool the air through transpiration. Yeah, I can feel it. My apple and pear trees are still small, but the garden is cooler than the surrounding prairie. And that shade moves with the sun, giving plants the light they need. Trees also act as a wind block. There's a nice little microclimate here with these 2 apricot trees and the grapevine on the fence. That's my hot weather gardening tip number 6. Plant trees, and lots of them. It's the long game, but it's worth it. Just like a tree, this grapevine provides shade. It also is a windbreak. Eventually, I'd like to cover all this fence with grapes. It's going to take a while. Growing vertically saves space, but it also creates shade and cooling. These asparagus ferns grow to about 7 feet tall very quickly, creating shade for other plants like this rhubarb. Vining annuals like pole beans and squash can grow up these trellises, creating a tunnel of shade. Grow on fences or trellises. Use your imagination. Growing vertically is fun. Heat beating tip number 8. Plant your beds densely. Tightly spaced plants shade the soil and keep the root zone cool. Your plants will be fine if the soil is nutrient dense, and you can thin as you grow. These cabbage were started indoors way back in March. Now it's getting hot and they're ready to be harvested. These red ones can stay a little longer and take the heat. The lettuce is ready. It was direct sown, but it's a quick grower. Also a heat-tolerant variety. And that brings us to watering. Your plants are going to need more water during the heat wave. But I don't have the time or patience for this. Garden saving tip number 10. Install an automated drip irrigation system. This is the electronic solenoid valve that controls the water flow. But this garden is still off-grid. The whole system is powered by 4 9-volt batteries. Installing filters on an off-grid irrigation system is important. My water is not the cleanest, and those drip emitters can get clogged. 2 pipe unions so the whole assembly comes off easily for repairs. And here's the wire. All the wires are buried underground back to the timer. These valves can also be operated manually in case I can't get batteries during the zombie apocalypse. I keep UV light off the valves with these pipes. I also keep the supply lines and drip tape buried. These drip emitters are pressure compensated for even flow, and they emit half a gallon per hour. That's the business end of this drip system, but now let's take a look at the brains. Here's a conduit where all those underground wires come back to the timer. It's a pretty easy system to operate, and once it's set, it does all the work itself. Here we're going to select a valve. Valve 5. Now duration, or how long the garden bed is irrigated. Days of the week, garden bed 5 will be irrigated every other day. Start time, this bed will be irrigated at 6 o'clock in the morning. This timer allows for 4 start times for each valve. I'm only using 1 now, but if the heat keeps up, I might have to add some irrigation time. I'm not using a rain sensor, so these last two settings are set for off. And the valve is back in operation mode. This cover protects the timer from rain and sun.
And there are several ways to keep your garden happy, hydrated, and growing in a heat wave, and in my case, a drought. Simple and effective dryland gardening techniques. I'll see you next time at the Windmill Garden. Woo! Hot one.